All right. Well, welcome to Dishing the Dirt, a podcast where we dish the dirt about living sustainably through the seasons. My name is Jackie Lebouitz. I'm the Chemicals and the Environment Agent at IFAS Extension, Sarasota County. And with me, of course, is my co-host.
Hi, I'm Randy Penn. I am the Waste Reduction Agent here at the University of Florida IFAS Extension in Sarasota County. And we have a very special guest here. I'm excited. Are you excited?
I am over the moon.
So we're in this back to school mode right now, and we have from the Mangrove School here in Sarasota, we have Erin, who's the director of the school there. And you're doing all sorts of things sustainable. So we're excited to hear about what you're doing. So welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being on today. So I did want to ask a little bit about what the Mangrove School is. So if you could describe it in your own words, just a quick summary of what you guys do, what your main mission is, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely. So we are a nature school, so immersed in nature, along with developmentally appropriate education, so giving children real experiences that are appropriate for their age level and development, and helping them to become the future stewards, and actually current stewards as well, of our land that we all share.
That is really essential. I mean, here in Sarasota County, we have an abundance of parks and preserves. And I have to say, it always irks me to see litter in these natural spaces. And I think it really helps to start kids early and get them to understand the link between those behaviors and their impact on the environment. So
Absolutely.
great to have that early nature-based education.
For sure.
So what are some of the things that you do on a regular basis that you think really foster that sense of stewardship and sustainability at the Mangrove School?
Well, I think really first and foremost is this constant connection that we're creating with the beings we share this space with. It's really about, from a very young age, helping them to have a reverence for these beings, not just the little critters that they see scurrying around, but all of them, the trees. We don't have kids walking around banging trees with sticks or, that kind of thing, because we want them to recognize that they're valuable beings, not just for what they provide us as well. It's not just about our shade or our oxygen, but they're providing for our whole ecosystem and all the different species that we share with. So I think that's the most important essential ingredient to begin with. And that can start from when they're very, very young, so that they grow up respecting and revering everything around them.
Yeah. No, I love the way you put that too. It's very poetic and absolutely right. I think, and I'm going to go back to that word ecosystem that you use, because that's a big part of what we teach about at the Extension office is how do we kind of fit into that ecosystem? How are we a part of it? Because I think it can be very dangerous when we separate humans from the equation, because we are very much part of the world that we're living in. So how do we coexist in a way where we're not endangering this environment that we call home?
Sure.
Yeah. So I wanted to touch on a few different aspects, especially through that back to school lens of how we can practice sustainability, both from the adult parent perspective and then, of course, for the kids that are going to school. So I think we can start with maybe some of those back to school supplies. What do you guys provide to the kids or ask them to get in advance of the curricula? And yeah, maybe what might you suggest folks look into getting if they maybe want to opt for more sustainable alternatives to the traditional school supplies?
Absolutely. So we as a school, we do provide the supplies. We buy them in bulk and then we provide them. So that's Forest Stewardship Council paper base books. For artistic materials, we're using natural materials like beeswax crayons, um, wooden pencils, wooden colored pencils, wooden regular pencils. We use chalkboards still. We don't use whiteboards or markers. And this is wonderful too, because the feeling of using those types of materials also creates this sense of care. Things don't break easily. You don't have crayons that are breaking when you press on them and things like that. So they get a sense of, oh, this is something that I should care about. It's not just this kind of disposable, crayon that I'll just, well, they were just $1, so I'll just get another pack. And that's really also what we're trying to promote as well, is like, we have these items, we invested in these items, let's care for these items. And that branches out into other items that they care about. And it helps promote this more sustainable, less disposable kind of, throwaway kind of items that people sometimes purchase because they're cheaper, but then they end up buying them a lot more frequently.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of an important part. And also that they're produced in a way that isn't harming the planet as well. And I know that that means that they're more expensive, but they do last longer. So, that's a trade-off. And then but there are lots of companies now that are making like more sustainable items. And I think that you can get them a little bit more inexpensively than in the past now that they're becoming more popular.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm glad you touched on all that. Those were all things in my mind that I'm very passionate about, especially when it comes to not just back to school supplies, but really, like you were talking about, fostering that connection with these different materials, understanding their background, their connection with nature, right? These are made from organic, natural materials, and that means that they're probably going to be built to last, like you mentioned. Maybe a little more expensive, but then you really have to think about that cost per use. That's a huge, huge component of sustainable shopping. Is yes, you might end up spending a little more upfront, but really the value is you have something that's going to last and arguably just be a better product to use.
Sure.
So,
Jackie, you bring up shopping.
oh,
And I was just at one of the major department stores a couple weeks ago, and it was chaos, right? Everyone was getting their school supplies, and they were just filling their cart with supplies and clothes, and it's excitement in the air. You could feel it. But you touch on this kind of single use, this kind of throwaway mentality, and parents are really busy now, right? So, what are some things maybe that parents can do when they're running out to grab those in that short time that they have to make those subtle changes? Because it's hard, right? How do I get something that's maybe going to last, not going to be single use devices or stuff like
an
that?
overriding that culture of
Yeah,
consumption.
it's
Right. The fast fashion too. We can, get into that part too, where you have the clothing items that, yes, are less expensive, but they definitely don't last as long. Um, and this is when like buying secondhand is a really great thing to do. I think that, I mean, aside from the stores that do that, even just, Facebook Marketplace or other places where people are just putting their things out there can be a great resource for buying higher quality items, I think. Um, you know, uh, it's very hard to be a parent for sure. There's like no way around it. And it's like society just gets like faster and faster and faster and more things, more things. But if we can slow down a little bit and resist the urge to just, um, fill our carts with brand new things, maybe we can reuse some things, and just help all of that stuff that ends up eventually in a landfill.
Yeah. Well, I love this idea that you provide the materials to the students because that takes that away. I can control what you're purchasing. Yeah, it's
Absolutely. Right. Like get discount deals on bulk,
We
right?
do. We get a bulk discount deal, and I have to say that when new parents come, that's like one of the questions always is, well, what are the supplies? When's the supply list? I'm like, oh, well, you need a reusable water bottle and a rain jacket, um, and a backpack,
I
and a
love
lunchbox. Like we're not asking them to go and get all the different items and this type of book and this type. We just have it there already. It's much easier. So then, maybe that also makes those other items a little easier for them to get.
yeah, I love that. I think it really takes the headache away
For sure.
for parents.
Yeah.
no running out for a trapper keeper.
Right, right, right.
Do you know what that is, Jackie? I brought that up because I thought you might not know what that is, but it was, remember that? Yes. It's a type of folder that you had multiple things in. So we'll look at it after the thing.
Oh my gosh.
Is it like the accordion style, or I'm just thinking
It's like a ring binder with like
Velcro that folded over on
and all this stuff in it.
right? Yeah, but maybe you could show me after this is all over. I can see a piece of history.
Yeah, exactly.
You sort of a relic, a relic of sorts. So I'm actually glad you mentioned that secondhand aspect of things. So I wanted to touch on that a little bit more and also plug we have on August 29th here at our office a clothing swap.
Oh, do you really?
So yes, it's open to all ages and I love the clothing swaps because one, free, right?
Absolutely.
So that's really nice. And then touching upon you typically get those higher quality goods, right? Not everything that you find secondhand is going to be high quality. Oftentimes you will see things that are maybe made a little cheaply or not quite what they look like online in these thrift store settings and secondhand settings, but yeah, every once in a while, you will encounter a beautiful vintage gem, and I swear they don't make things like they used to, all. So I get very excited, especially for shoes, which I know not everyone maybe likes to get secondhand, but I do some tests. I do some, the sniff test, the flex test,
Oh, neat.
and I have to say I've done some really nice secondhand leather shoes from a variety of stores across the county.
Wow.
Fun clothing swaps, right? And in a similar sense too, if you have a network of parents at your school or institution, figure out maybe a day where, especially if they have kids that are older than your kids, hey, they've outgrown some things. There's that opportunity to use what they would otherwise discard or donate, and you don't have to pay a penny.
Absolutely. Yeah, swaps are great. Mhm.
Swaps are good. And then, as an individual family unit, if you have multiple kids as well, just put that stuff that you might not need right now in a bin in the garage if you anticipate maybe another kid coming into the mix at some point, because
Sure.
that stuff's going to come in handy.
It really does help to be able to hand down the items that have made it through. I think it's a really great thing, and it also, like, just the idea of, like, a backpack, for example, is like, as long as the backpack still fits and it's still functioning, children don't need a new backpack every year.
Yeah.
They don't need a new lunchbox every single year. That's something that people made up. It's
Yeah.
not real.
No, I agree. Really, especially a lot of those backpacks too are made of these synthetic fabrics that might not be the best sustainably. So then, I mean, if you get, let's say a polyester backpack, just make it last. Make it last as long as it can until it really has those holes in it where things are falling. I don't know.
Once it's not functioning as a backpack anymore, then it's time to let it go. But I mean, if you buy a backpack that's decently made, it can last for several years. And as long as it still fits the child, like I understand a 4-year-old,
Sure.
a backpack is not going to fit a 10-year-old, but
Yeah.
you can reuse these things and you don't have to promote this like, well, you need a new this, you need a new that every year.
Right.
If everybody stops doing it, it won't be a thing anymore.
That's very true. We have a lot of power in our influence with friends, family, people that are going to the same school. So yeah, exercise that sphere of influence. I shouldn't die fear of influence, although that could work too, perhaps. Uh, yeah. So you mentioned lunch boxes, and I was kind of curious. Maybe we could move into what does a sustainable lunch look like at the Mangrove School? What do you see people use and bring?
Well, the biggest thing I think is the containers that they use, using the reusable containers. Um, the metal ones, in my opinion, are superior. First of all, because you're not dealing with then much plastic at all. And they just tend to be more durable. The Planet Box that's over my shoulder over here, that's a decade old. It lasts a really long time. Um, and they just tend to be really great. And you buy it once and then you have it forever. And that was passed on between multiple children. And so that's like the number one thing is the disposable container. And then, they're filling it with healthy foods. Um, Other than, let's say, seaweed packets, which you really can't pack in anything else, then you don't see much in the way of like wrappers and things like that. There are some really great examples of at least sustainable um, compostable bags and things, which are also featured over here. Um, that those can work if you can't swing the metal containers right away or something, or you need to like build up your supply over time. That works too. But the plastic containers, in my opinion, they're just not as durable. Those are the types of things where, if they have little buckles or latches or something, those are going to break within a year probably. So those aren't as ideal. But the metal works really great. Glass is awesome, but, just higher reality of breaking. Some of them, like the Pyrex, those are pretty good. They're pretty thick, but most of the time I see the metal lasting the longest and working the best. So
That's a great tip.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the packaging, and composting. I love talking about compost. Just sure, I'll be go on for an hour.
amazing, yeah.
Many years ago, you became a green business partner, and I actually got to visit the school, and I noticed they had their own lunch boxes, their own reusable glasses, and you're composting at the place. You know, all schools are not created equal. I visit a lot of schools across the county, and when they go through their lunch line, everything is in a single-use plastic. Really blew me away. Styrofoam tray, carrots in plastic, and all these sort of things. So you kind of changed the script on that a
Yeah.
lot, which
Oh,
is
for
really
sure.
great.
Yeah.
But talk about the composting that you have going on. Are you still
Sure.
doing that program?
Yeah, we have our compost bins, and that's for any food waste. We don't. So the thing is, that what I find is we don't really generate a lot of waste, which is really great. The kids are generally, for the most part, eating what they pack, which is awesome. But you'll get, banana peels and things like that, or apple cores.
Yeah.
And having those go back down into the earth is, superior to throwing them in the bin. Um, and not much in the way of any other waste either, which is great. So we don't produce a lot, which helps. We really try to, even just in like art projects or different things like that, we really try to create things that are not instant gratification. They take a while to complete, and it's something that the parent would want to keep or gift, as opposed to, oh, this is going on the fridge for a week and then it's just getting tossed in the garbage or whatever. We really want them to have this feeling of pride and care in the things that they're doing, and that really helps to keep things out of the landfill as well.
I love that. And I did want to ask, do you have any favorite art projects that you've done with your kids?
Oh gosh. I mean, there's so many. Every year we do a lantern walk in the fall, and each year the students make lanterns, often from reusable items like jars that would have gone in recycling, can be made really beautiful into beautiful lanterns with tissue paper. Other ones have been using paper straws and paper to make lanterns. We've used beeswax to make lanterns. We've done paper mache, all different items that we can create these lanterns from, and then people keep them. And they're like a really pretty decoration that they can use in their home if they like. And then if it breaks or over time is broken down, it's not, it can go back into the earth or be recycled or whatever.
I love that. And I'm inspired. I might do something similar just for myself. Sure. I love a good lantern.
You can join us if you'd like. Happy to have you.
All right. Let me know. Keep me posted on those dates.
Sure.
And then I wanted to ask, and I think we're kind of in our wind down final 5 minutes or so. So we can spend as long as you want on this. What are some of the other activities, I guess classroom exercises that you do that have that connection to nature? Um, I'm just curious because someone might be listening and I might go, oh, that sounds like a great idea for my homeschooled kid, or maybe I can bring this into my classroom. So, yeah, just some of the things that you typically do throughout the semester.
Absolutely. I think probably one of the things that can be done for children of all ages to varying degrees is the sit spot. So, this is when they're finding a little spot in nature and just taking it in with all of their senses. Their, what does it sound like? What are they hearing around them? Creating like an internal map of sounds that are happening. What are they seeing when they really tune in and, quiet their minds? The little bugs or lizards, or even just the way the light looks looking through the leaves. What does it smell like? What does it feel like? Are there different textures? And no one's asking them these questions. It's just something that they'll get to do just by quieting themselves. And it really helps in so many ways, from psychologically, physiologically, all of these different things. And it really creates this little connection that they have. And then older children after might document some of the things. And that could be, in a nature journal that is made from sustainable paper and a wood pencil. But this is something, this opening of the senses and really getting out of our heads and into our senses is like the number one most important thing that we could do for children today, and really connects them to the nature around them and internally into themselves, and kind of resets everything that's happening in their bodies, which is so incredibly crucial with all of the fast pace, all of the screens everywhere. I mean, can you go to a restaurant that doesn't have screens? I don't know. So just it's everything all around them. And so this is a way of helping to kind of reset and recalibrate and give them an opportunity to have a real childhood.
I love that. I really do. And it's something that I try to incorporate in my own life. And I think everybody should is just those little meditative moments in nature where you can foster that connection to what's around you. And it's focusing on the small things, like you said, the light through the leaves or the sound of the birds. It seems kind of simple, but it has such a profound impact, I think, on development and behavior. So I'm with you. And I love how easy that is to bring anywhere,
You could do it anywhere.
anywhere.
You don't have to have a big land, big piece of property.
No.
You could do it anywhere.
Even in the yard at home.
Yeah. And if you don't even have a yard, you could do it from, you know, the patio, like a sidewalk. It doesn't matter.
Very true. Yeah. Your libraries too in Sarasota County. Oh, some of them have great gardens. Oh, that's true. Visit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's
Well,
beautiful.
speaking of your garden, when I came and visited your school, they weren't in the building. You had tents set up outside. They were doing lessons. It was an outdoor classroom around the place. You had a garden there that we went through. So it's kind of taking the students outside, which I think is a really, really big deal. We have such a great environment, year-round environment here.
Exactly. Yeah,
To be able to do that, it's a missed opportunity if you're not getting outside. So
yeah. And they get that great vitamin D, and they're, just under the sky. It's just incredible. It's so lovely to be here, you know, all year round. It's awesome.
Yeah. Take advantages. Yeah. It's snowing and flurrying. We have a lot of opportunities to be outside and enjoy the seasons here in Sarasota.
It's an outdoor state.
Mm-hmm. So, what I'd like to do is kind of wrap up. If you have anything maybe you wanted to share, any takeaways for our listeners before I close out the show, I'll go ahead and open the floor.
Well, I mean, I guess, I just want to thank you guys for inviting me. I'm so grateful to be here and just to help in any way that I can for families to maybe be encouraged to try to take on some of these things, and it helps everybody, which is also really important. Um, and that even just the tiny little steps, the small steps really do make an impact, and it's worth doing. So you don't have to, invest hundreds of dollars. It could just be one little thing that you do, you know, each week or whatever it is, and it will make a difference. And that's how we overall create change, is just these little tiny steps.
Beautifully put. And that's something that I think we've emphasized a number of times on our podcast so far is every little bit really does
Yeah.
count.
You don't have to be overwhelmed by it. It could just do one little step at a time. And then over time, you'll have change.
Yeah.
And so will we. So,
I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And Erin's selling herself short. Her school is wonderful. She's an award-winning green school. Yes, SNE awards. I know you won that a number of years back. So a lot of the practices that you do, you're a green business partner in Sarasota County. And I think as we kind of move to more and more charter type schools across the state of Florida, you serve as a real example and a leader in that space. So I appreciate you taking the time
of course.
to come and be here.
Thanks
And good luck
for having me.
school year.
Thank you. Right. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I am going to go ahead, share the resources with everybody who's listening in. So if you have any resources to share that you want in the show notes, do let me know. Otherwise, I'm definitely going to link the Green Business Partnership so that if you happen to be listening in and maybe you want to consider being a green business down the road, you can learn a little bit more about that program by visiting our show notes. We'll also have our listener survey there for anyone interested. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.